but it's a variation from his regular habit. But a difference is something he just does not do. You will not find that. So that's why you have to spend a lot of time with the document, because you have to look at every single word, every letter of each word to find out what he never did or that he does on occasion.
You want to distinguish a variation from a difference?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So with the W now, we've got very rounded bottom, back up where the beginning, like the A, that's very angular. So we go from angular writing to rounded writing, which is an interesting mix. Then on down to Thomas, we have the TH, the stem of the T is a very sweeping bar, kind of curved upward. It goes right into the tall stem of the H, and that is kind of more of a style that he uses in the name mostly. Then you've got the M on the left-hand side. The questioned is, again, a rounded M. Now look at Thomas on the left, on the right.
One thing you may not realize is if you touch, well, of course, we're using the overhead.
Oh, no, this is the PowerPoint.
If you're using the PowerPoint, I think you can touch the screen and circle what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you.
Let's just see if that'll work. I'm not sure if it'll work on this one.
Oh, okay.
I'm just checking with. Will you do that all the
Oh,
time?
yep, there it goes.
See that? See?
Almost went
so
through
when you
it, though.
say, look at this, look at that,
Thank you.
you can actually touch the screen, circle it, and then there's an erase button there. We use this all the time. And so can you see your erase button? And that way you can clear your screen and clean it up and go to your next point. Is that better?
Okay.
Got that? It'll be actually much easier to follow you
Thank
if
you.
you don't
Yes.
mind doing something like
Not
that.
at all. I think it helps me too.
No problem.
Thank you. All right.
And you can actually change your colors too if you want to change your colors on the screen.
Okay. The tops of the M's, and it's doing the next letter over, but anyway, the M's.
And circle that, and you can erase it and then circle it so we got it real clear. There you go.
The M's there, the questioned, rounded. Now we come over to the known documents, and that M is pointed top. So again, we've got a mixture of the angular and the rounded features. We come on down to the B. The B, capital B, are fairly equal portions. From the top portion is a little bit.
Ms. Fierce, can I just interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
You pointed out a rounded M and a pointed M, but he makes both, correct?
He makes both, correct.
In his known document?
Sometimes, yeah, and on the lower case especially you find the mixture, the pointed M or the rounded M, and it's still him.
The
either way.
variation in his style.
Still is. The B's, I did it. The upper portion of the B is a little bit smaller than the bottom part of the balloon, if you will. The O, again, is just scrunched up, just really nestled right against the B. Again, on the right-hand side, same thing. The N is the angular. He's gone up, down, and then he actually picks up the pen and draws that final stroke. So you'll find that again and again throughout his writing. Not every time, however. For instance, yeah, we got this. Andrews up here. The N there. You can clearly see it goes the upstroke, downstroke, then he picks up the pen and makes a final stroke in that particular N. Okay. Thank you. Now, you remember the TH a while ago. The long sweeping stroke went right into that tall H. Well, now we've got another capital T, Tennessee.
Clear a screen there, okay?
Cleared.
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The question document, this time you still have a sweeping T-bar, But the next letter is nestled under the T-bar, which is kind of interesting because a while ago the T-bar was going right through the H. And same thing as a noun. Again, we've got the ends with the up and down, and then pick up the pen and make that final downstroke on the end in both words. So pretty clear. Then the next word on the question, bow leg, and your B's are very, very similar. Very little difference in the B's. The O's, what we're going to find throughout the writing is some of the letters will be caps, some will be lowercase. And it doesn't seem to matter to him too much which is which. Like you're writing along in the middle of a sentence and you may have a capital K or a capital C. So that's interesting and totally him. Now this time we got the small O in the questioned, and we have a large O in the known. So he makes his O's both ways. Then we've got the lowercase l. Then we've got a printed E. Now one of them is lowercase, kind of, and then the other one is the taller one. The G's are peculiar, very individualistic, and actually kind of creative, both of them. So those are unique, but they're very, very similar. And these have the long finals below the baseline on the G. You will find him doing that with the H's and some other letters, and now sometimes the G's will have a very straight line down, a little short line, a long line. So there's a great variety in his G's. Then if we look down to the B's for Ben, again we have the two strokes of the B, the downstroke, and then the rounded features. They're a comparable formation on each one. The E's, again, are caps, but they are in lowercase area. And then the N, the one pen lift. Let's see. Actually, this N seems to be pretty much connected, this one right here. I'm putting my finger here, and it's writing over about an inch away. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the N, this one goes up, down, and then you have a final stroke. So sometimes he makes his ends a little differently in that sometimes he picks up the pen for the final stroke, and sometimes he may not.
And that's another variation in his style.
Absolutely. Then the word don't. I find this interesting. He's got a capital D and on each side. And this is not necessarily the beginning of a sentence. He just wants to put a capital there. So we have a capital D, and then we've got the same slant as we learned a while ago. We have the same spacing, very, very close, very tight, kind of running over the letters himself. And look, there's no apostrophe. So I found that interesting, and now that you'll find again and again. So that's his style. That's his habit. That's what he does. Now, question document, the field there. Now, both of these documents have what I like to call a candy cane top on those F's. They're both alike. The bar comes right through a little above the center and really kind of touches that E, almost as though he's used that to begin the E. The E's are they're caps, but yet they're lowercase, and then we have the lowercase l. The slant's alike. The formations are alike. Now later on, we're going to see that F. We'll see his F's going backwards or forwards. Some of them are going to be really sharp at the top. Others are going to be rounded like these. So he is all over the board. Those are variations, not differences. If he only did it, if he never did it, it would be a difference. But again, he just is all over the board, does this one time, that one time. Very inconsistent. Now, business is, will give you a real sample of how much things vary. The initial business here over on the left-hand side, the question document, the BUS is very, very close. Again, the B's are formed fairly similarly. Then the NESS is pretty much the same in all these. But now look at the known. Now, both of these are known. You would not think so, but they are. So the top business is just like the question documents on the left. But look at the next business. See, an entirely different style that you wouldn't even think the same person could write that, but he did. And this, again, is a variation, very inconsistent. He's consistent in his inconsistencies. Then you've got Memphis, your unique M. We saw that initially in his Anthony, so now you've got the upstroke that's rather curved, extremely angular tops on the M, and they are slanted to the right. Now, the middle of Memphis, you're going to find the rounded top M, and now we've got the angular top M, but right down below we have the rounded M versus the angular, and again the rounded. So also we're finding a difference in his H's in that some are going to be more curved, some are going to go longer below the baseline. By the way, the baseline I'm talking about is the real or imagined line upon which we write. So that's what I'm referring to as a baseline. But again, you can see that it's written by the same person, but it looks different at first blush. With. Now, a while ago we saw a word, don't, that did not have an apostrophe. Now we're finding I's that do not have I dots. So that's worth noting. There's a very rounded base on the W, no I dot. The THs are reasonably tall. And notice the T bar crosses pretty much at the top of the H, the little hump there. You would not believe where I'm pointing and where it's I'm sorry, Your Honor. But anyway, the T-bar on that TH usually kind of almost touches the hump of the H and then goes down. So that's identical. Now, sometimes the H will have a very rounded top. Sometimes it's kind of squared off at the top. So that, again, is another variation, but it's not a difference because he does it both ways. Now, the I think is really interesting. I don't think I've seen too many I's shaped like this, but you've got your rounded top and then your rounded bottom. And somewhere in the middle you've got your, oh well. Again, you've got your rounded top and your rounded bottom. Rounded top and rounded bottom. So that's a little unique. Some of the bottoms are going to be a little more to the left of the stem. Some are going to be in the center of the stem. So again, the placement of those are not exact every time. So another variation. Then we've got the word Gambini, and I found this fascinating. Look at that Y on there and how you have sitting on a pedestal, actually. He literally starts at the baseline, he goes up and then makes his little swing over for a bucket, comes down, and then here we go to the left again. Some of his finals go right, these are going left, which is not unusual. The G again comes down below the baseline. The A is rounded at the top now. Remember all those pointed A's in Anthony? Now, these are lowercase, but they're very rounded. The rounded M, and the N is the printed N, the angular N. Now, here's an I. There's no dot, which is this handwriting. The A's are not as all over the place as some of the things. The B's are similar, yet they're not going to be shaped exactly alike. I mean, the bottom portion is generally a little bit fatter than the top portion of the B. The C's, again, we get to that capitalization that's just very random. So this is in the center of a sentence. It says, those crackers might cross. Well, the C is capitalized in the middle of the sentence. The M is gigantic in the middle of the sentence. The cross is, the C there is oversized. Then you've got your trial clothes that are caps, and then the next word, lowercase. I meant the next letter. Then the E's are quite different. Some of them look like a printed block E, and some look like the Greek E. And some in between, actually. The F's for for or of. Now this is where you're going to see we might call it a flag on the F part going one way or the other. Initially you've got the very angular top, and the next one is a very rounded, even though it is lowercase. Then we can move to the next one. Now that's lowercase too, but guess what? The F looks like it's flying backwards now. Instead of a candy cane, it looks like a little flag waving to the left. I mean, how different can it get? But he does both. Then you've got the more rounded tops, then back to the square top, more rounded and square. So these are his habits, as strange as they seem. The G's on the final downstroke are curved and or straight. Some are long, some are short. Go figure. Then the J's, this was interesting too. My initial thought on the J's was, he doesn't make a top. And then in looking through some of the other writing, he does have that bar on top. So that varies a great deal. Then you've got your little candy cane F within the word Jennifer. And then the second Jennifer has got your little backward flag, if you will. So there's a great variation, even in the same word. If you look at the first Jennifer compared to the second Jennifer, there's quite a bit of difference there. In the G's, we've already pretty much mentioned that, but most of them were coming down and bearing off to the right below the baseline. Now look at George. He's gone way left, which you would think is the absolute reverse of his habit, but it's not. That's his writing. That's another strong variation. Then you've got the R's. They look fairly similar with the exception of the final stroke coming down. Some go out, some go down. Some don't go very far. Some go below the baseline. So he varies greatly. That's why it took so much time for me to really hone in on the full story here. The T's, again, this time we've got the sweeping T-bar, at least that's consistent. And then the rest of the word is kind of nestled under that T-bar. The T's generally are quite tall, although the third word in the second sentence, well, not sentence, but line there, is not that tall. So you have tall T's, short T's, not so tall T's. Here's your word don't again. One of them's skinny, one of them's fat. It just so inconsistent. It's incredible. Now let's look at the name. He doesn't even use the same name all the time. How different can you get? You've got Spanky, Mr. A. Bond, Anthony M. Bond, and Gambini. I mean, that's strange.
Ms. Pierce, you've talked a lot about variation in his style. Because there was so much variation, was it impossible to render an opinion here?
No, but it made it more time-consuming and a little more difficult, but it definitely could be done.
You pointed out many similarities and many variations as well. Did you notice any differences?
The only thing that I saw that I perceived could be a difference would have been the way he makes the you. Thank you. You can back that up again if you want to, where the word you. Oh, okay. Anyway, the question I saw no downstroke after the YOU. On the U, I saw no downstroke. On the known documents, I did see a downstroke. But then again, sometimes the writing is so closely knit that it almost looks like it begins another word. So I don't know if that's a variation because I did not see it anywhere else. But it would not surprise me if, another writing might have that because he varies so greatly.
So even though you noticed one difference, you were still able to conclude that Mr. Bond wrote the question documents?
Yes, I'm not going to throw it out because of one tiny little minute stroke. I had too much evidence, that would dispute that.
Ms. Pierce, you told us that you saw many similarities between the question and the known documents. How do you know that these similarities were not the result of simulation?
Oh, well, in simulation, I look for evidence of that, and I would find patching, dotting, where you've held the pen on the paper too long and the ink has begun to fill it up. The patching, you would maybe make a letter and decide, oh, I want that Y to be a little longer, so you go back and patch it or fix it to try to make it look like the author. So I did not find that. No angles that I can't explain except in the known writing, like the George, how the G turned backwards. That would be kind of what I'm looking at in the question, but I didn't see it in the question. I did see that once or twice in the known writing.
And is it standard practice to look for patching, dotting, and angular movements when you're analyzing a document?
Yes, yes, that gives you tips as to whether or not it's been simulated or not.
And what did you conclude from this analysis?
I concluded that it's not simulated writing, that it's just extremely varied and inconsistent, but it's definitely that of Anthony Bond.
And to what degree of certainty do you hold that opinion?
I'm quite certain.
Aside from comparing the handwriting between the questioned and the known, did you engage in any other type of analysis of the documents?
I did, after noticing Mr. Sperry's report, he had mentioned that he had looked for indented writing. So I had not noticed any, and so I went back.
What is indented writing?
Indented writing is where you have a piece of paper, then maybe you put something over that and write, and you may have a little bit of an impression from what you've written over your document. I did not see anything that would indicate with the naked eye or with infrared, that was a problem here. I didn't see anything, so I didn't pursue that.
And why would one look for indented writings?
Well, in some cases, like if I wrote, say I had a deposit slip and then I wrote a bank robbery note over it and you could read that, that'd be pretty significant. But in this case, I found nothing, so it's just a moot point for me.
And how did you conduct your analysis of the indented writings?
I used the infrared lighting and magnification and actually felt the writing of the paper. Of course, you can't always feel it, but I at least tested that.
I'm sorry, you said infrared? I thought that was for something else in your report.
Yes, you can use the infrared for the ink.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, the ESDA would be more for what you would use for the indention.
Okay, what is the ESDA?
The electrostatic detection apparatus.
Okay, and what does it do?
It kind of magnetizes some particles so that they will fall into the trenches and make them visible to some. It would not be visible to the naked eye, but if you can use this machine, sometimes it appears something there that you couldn't see before.
And did you use an ESDA?
No, I don't have one. If I felt like it was really, really essential in the case, then I would send it to a lab.
And how did the fact that you saw no indented writings impact your analysis?
That I saw what?
How did the fact that you saw no indented writings impact your analysis?
It didn't impact it either way.
Did you conduct any other analysis of the documents?
I did on the ink, again, because Mr. Sperry had mentioned in his report that he had done a test on the ink or whatever. Now, I did not, with my equipment, I did not see any difference. I don't doubt that he could see under different filters. I did use an infrared light. I don't have various filters, so some wavelengths or filters will show something that another one doesn't. So you can, if you have several filters, and you can go through that, and maybe something will become visible or invisible. So I do not have that equipment. Again, if I felt like it was necessary, I would send it to a lab. But another thing is on the ink, the final word of that, I mean, if you want the bottom line, then you get it chemically tested, but it didn't seem necessary in this case, and it does damage the document, and I didn't want to do that.
And what ink were you looking at? Which documents?
I was looking at Q1 and Q2. That would have been the envelope, but compared to the letter. Now, through magnification, I could see that they're both light black ink. I could see copper-colored flakes, but I could see that on both, so that didn't tell me anything.
So they looked the same when you looked at them under magnification?
It did. I mean, if it's different, I could not see it with my equipment.
And why didn't you do the ink analysis to begin with? You said you did it after you saw Mr. Sperry's report.
I didn't see the point, because a lot of times I've written a letter, and I know my sister has, and not mail it for a day or two. You might pick up any pen, you know, and then address the envelope if it's after the fact, or maybe you've gone to lunch, you come back, you pick up another pen. So I don't find that significant. It doesn't say anything to the authorship.
And would Mr. Bond have had access to multiple pens like you've described?
Yes, I called a Tennessee Corrections officer, Mr. Salyers, spoke with him, and he said in 2002 they would give paper and pens to the prisoners, so he had access to those.
And Ms. Pierce, how did the findings about the indented writings and the ink impact your analysis?
Not at all. Either way.
And so what was your final conclusion about the authorship of the documents?
I strongly feel that Mr. Bond wrote those, Q1 and Q2.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. I have no more questions.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a normal morning break at this time, and it is usually about 12 to 13 minutes. I ask everybody to be back at, it'll be at 10 till the hour. Well, we'll be about 5 till the hour. We'll give you a little more time. We'll let you have a break. We'll see you at that time. And, of course, don't discuss your testimony at this point with anybody.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you at that time.